is Jamie Shagnon, your Sports Information Director, bringing you the first ever Leo's House Party podcast. And we are thrilled to be able to talk to you guys on a weekly basis about what's going on with Kings athletics and Kings as a college and also some other stuff within the sports landscape. And today we are just thrilled. We have three amazing guests for you guys to listen to. First of all, being Megan Morrison, the new executive director of the MAC. She just walks us through kind of the cancellation of the fall for 2020 sports. And then we also had a chance to talk to two student athletes from the that are both on fall athletic teams, and Quincy Clark, running back for the Kings football team, along with Bailey DeLellis, who's a senior for the Kings field hockey team. So a really good show to start us off, and we are excited to bring this to you guys every week. We'll be putting it out on either Tuesday or Wednesday of each week as we get guests and are allowed. Obviously, through the fall, we'll be looking for stuff to talk about with, unfortunately, no fall sports. And, for all those Monarchs out there, we're all thinking about you. We know it's a difficult time. This is hard. The quarantine first and the fall, with the spring was cut short. And then, kind of the uncertainty of the summer and now having at least a little bit of news to go off. But we're still going to do what we can to make sure that there is programming for all of our student athletes here in the fall, for everyone that's on campus. Whether that is training, practices, mini games, mini competitions, possibly some virtual stuff with other schools. All sorts of ideas have been thrown out there, but know that we will do everything we can to make your experience at Kings College the best that it possibly can be, and that is a promise that you will get from our entire athletics department as we go forward. So a lot of news in the athletics landscape, obviously. MLS is back, baseball is back, football still ramping up with training camp in the professional side, and then NBA and NHL getting ready to start. So at least some sports out there. We'll see how long everything goes, and with the news that came down today about baseball, the 2 cancellation games, hopefully that's just an isolated incident. But again, thank you so much. We're excited to get this going. This Leo's House Party podcast, something that we've been trying to work on for a while. So we're excited to kind of get it off the ground and see where it can go. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and send it over to the first interview we have today, which is with Megan Morrison, the executive director of the Middle Atlantic Conference. And thank you so much to Megan. She was a phenomenal guest, amazing to talk to, just an amazingly bright future for our conference as she takes the reins from our former executive director, Ken Andrews. And the league is in amazing hands after having a conversation with her. Just can't say enough good things about her. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this conversation we did have with Megan. So thank you so much again, and let's go ahead and send it on over to Megan Morrison. Well, we are super happy to be joined by the 5th executive director of the MAC. She's the former associate executive director for compliance and governance of the Ivy League. She's served on numerous NCAA committees, including the Women's Ice Hockey Committee, among others. And a big welcome and thank you for joining us, the new MAC executive director, Megan Morrison.
Thank you for having me.
So obviously the big news that came out on Friday about the cancellation of the fall semester for sports. Could you just give us a glimpse or a little bit of how that decision was made and how difficult it was for the presidents and the ADs?
Yeah, absolutely. Our athletics directors have been meeting regularly, almost weekly, for a couple of months now, continually analyzing the information that's out there. And our presidents as well have met regularly over the last couple months in making all of the decisions we've needed to make along the road here to navigate all the ramifications of the pandemic. And so it got to a point where there was enough information in front of us, and we're at a critical juncture where students are about to come back to campuses, if they're going to be allowed to come back, that they needed to make some decisions. So it was time to evaluate all of the information we had in front of us. And, national trends are heading in the wrong direction. In many states, the number of cases continue to increase, including in our footprint. And so that combined with some ideas that in order to do athletics safely, we're going to have to implement testing models. And is that the right decision for our institutions? Is that the right pathway to go when there are community members who have symptoms who have a hard time getting tested, and turnaround times to get results back might not be conducive to the time needed to have an intercollegiate athletics program. So there certainly was a lot of concerns mounting, and ultimately, though a very difficult decision, as you say, I think the right one right now for our institutions was to postpone any intercollegiate activity in the fall, competition-wise anyway. Both our athletics directors and our presidents care deeply about the athletics enterprise on the campuses and know how much they mean not just to our student athletes, but to our campus communities. So it was incredibly difficult at both levels. And I can't even imagine, I'm not the one that has to sit in front of coaches and tell them, that things are canceled, and hear the student athletes directly. So I feel for all of our campus folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was, as we talk with our coaches here at Kings, a lot of it was in the same breath that it was the right decision to make. And I think we're all on board. Kind of along with that, though, last week the NCAA decided to change the playing season from weeks to days. And, as a conference, how do you think that our student athletes will maybe benefit from that change during this difficult time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the NCAA is really trying to be proactively flexible, not something they're traditionally known for, to help institutions navigate what 2021 is going to look like. Mm-hmm. So I think it does. It gives institutions and it gives conferences some flexibility to design seasons in a proactive manner, rather than designing something and then having to go ask the NCAA if it's going to be okay if we can do it, because it's outside of the normal paradigm. So in that sense, I think it will give ultimate flexibility on when student athletes can participate with their coaches, and what that could look like, because we don't know what that's going to look like in the fall, and we don't know what it's going to look like in the spring. So the more flexibility we have on the front end, the easier it's going to be to make those decisions down the road.
Yeah, Megan, looking at the announcement last week, which I think was amazingly done, obviously in a difficult time, but, allowing, putting out that frequently asked question page, I think has answered a ton of questions. But the one thing I noticed in the byline is that the conference, it says, is committed to providing meaningful engagement opportunities for student athletes and alternatives for fall sports in the spring. So, obviously no decisions have been made, but what were some alternatives for some of those fall sports as we go forward?
Right now, we're just brainstorming everything that we think could be possible. We're looking at, the feasibility. How much can we overlap? We all have a lot of spring sports, and to add the fall sports to that facility-wise, personnel-wise, is going to be incredibly difficult. But it's worth looking into. It's worth providing our fall sports student athletes some opportunity to compete if they're going to lose that in the fall. So we're going to continue to analyze that, and obviously the atmosphere around COVID will depend on what we can do too, and that we just won't know for months. So I think all options at this point are on the table, and we'll just adjust as we need to.
So kind of switching gears here, you were announced as the new executive director back in February. I believe actually it was during the swim championships were going on. And then less than a month later, quarantine kind of starts. How difficult is it for you to been to step into a role like this, during such a difficult and uncertain time? And how has your staff helped, including the old executive director, Ken Andrews?
Yeah, I'll sort of answer that in reverse. First, the staff and Ken were incredibly welcoming and helpful, and continue to educate me every day on the pieces of this conference. And, thinking back in February, it was obviously like, July will be a good time. I'll, be able to ease in and learn all the things. And obviously it was not that easy. Mm-hmm. But I think starting the quarantine and working at home and the landscape of Division I in March helped me, because, for a job that I'd been in for 14 years, and I thought I had all the answers, all of a sudden we're in a period where no one has any answers, and you're scrambling and you're learning every day and you're adjusting every day. And so that's sort of like coming into a new job. So in a way, the impact of the pandemic helped me to transition, because I came in, and for the last 4 months, I've been, making it up as I go, and learning new things every day, and being open to change, and, having a little bit of practice at navigating what it's like under these scenarios to, ease communication, and, all the things that go into decision making during an uncertain time. So in that sense, it was probably eased a tiny, tiny bit, but it has been challenging. I mean, I'm having to tell people incredibly difficult information who I've never met in person. And that's been really hard to try to build that trust up with our athletics directors, with our presidents, over Zoom.
Right. We're here with MAC Executive Director Megan Morrison, and again, thanks so much for joining us here on the Leo's House Party podcast. Another question. So we're going to look kind of a little bit farther back for you, but you were the Associate Executive Director for Governance and Compliance at the Ivy League. That's an extremely high academic league, which is a lot of the times a league that kind of takes the driver's seat and really takes the initiative with a lot of things, as they did with football or their fall sports, moving them to possibly the spring. How was your experience working within the Ivy League in such a highly academic conference prepared you for this role in the MAC?
Yeah, I think it prepared me extraordinarily well. The Ivy League is a conference that makes principle-based decisions, and those principles are founded in the collegiate atmosphere. The Ivy League believes that athletics complements academics, and that's very familiar in Division III, which is one of the guiding principles of Division III, is that our student athletes are students first, and we want to give them the opportunity to excel at both, but not to sacrifice on the academic side of things. So in that sense, philosophically, they're very similarly aligned, and that's part of what appealed to me.
So you were a 3-sport athlete back in college. I'm just reading your bio a little bit for you, but so you went to Bowdoin, which is up in Brunswick, Maine, I believe.
It is.
And you were a ice hockey player and a softball player from what I saw, as well as a golfer. How about your experiences up there at Bowdoin really shaped, your life and how it's helped you be successful in college athletics?
Probably more than a few minutes has to be able to explain, but first, playing sports my whole life, teaches you how to be a good teammate, and whatever you end up doing in life, that's invaluable. Those experiences, I think on a little bit more micro level, it helps you with time management. Mm-hmm. Playing 3 sports, you don't get the opportunity to veg out on the couch. Like, you need to keep going and adjust your schedule and figure out how to fit all the things in. So maybe that best prepared me for parenting, which also is quite a juggle. But and then just philosophically, it shaped what I believed athletics should look like. And probably one of the big reasons that I find myself back here in D3.
So within your bio, it's really spelled out really nicely, but I want to ask you about some of your work with the Women's Leaders in College Sports, which is an amazing leadership and executive institute. And being so involved with that, how great is it to see something for advancing women in positions of influence and powerful shapes, the landscape of women's leaders today?
Yeah, that Women's Leaders is an amazing organization, one that I'm very proud to be associated with, and have over the years just grown so much as a person and as a professional through their programming and through their continued support of women in athletics. And, I think it's fabulous. The MAC also has programming for women in athletics, and it's crucial to keep that professional pathway open, and to find other women that you can have as mentors, and to mentor the young women just entering the profession. So it certainly is an organization I will always hold dear, and hopefully be a bigger and bigger part of as I'm able.
We're here with MEC Executive Director Megan Morrison. Megan, I'll just one last question for you. I don't want to keep you too long today, but again, thank you so much for joining us. Last question before we let you go. The MAC it's 18 colleges and universities. It's one of the biggest Division III schools or conferences in the NCAA. What are some words that you have, or some advice for our student athletes out there that maybe are a little bit leaguered right now, or a little bit upset and kind of maybe don't know what to do as they kind of head forward?
Yeah, this is really difficult. These every day seems like we're stepping into a new unknown. And, a lot of us want answers and want to be able to plan and look ahead and know what's coming, and we just don't. And so I think if I had words of advice to student athletes right now, it'd be focus on what you can control, which is your own actions, your own beliefs, and focus those in a positive way. Take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, take care of the mental health of those around you, check in on people. This is certainly difficult for anybody, but I feel especially for our student athletes who, in the spring had seasons that were abruptly canceled. Now for our fall student athletes who don't know if they will get a season in 2021 or not. But, the college atmosphere and the time that you have in college is so precious. And, whether that includes athletics and to what extent it includes athletics, turn that into a positive. Do what you can with the time that you have and make the most of it. I think that's what I would end with anyway.
Well, amazing words. Megan, thank you so much again for joining us. One of our first guests here on our new Leo's House Party podcast, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for carving out a little bit for us, and we really look forward to seeing you here in Wilkes-Barre whenever it allows. So thank you again.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, and hopefully I'll be on again.
A big thanks to Megan Morrison for joining us here on the Leo's House Party podcast. Again, that was just a phenomenal interview. We had a great time talking to her, and someone that had a lot of insight to the MAC's decision to move all the sports, or at least suspend competition in the fall to the spring. And I just want to read a little bit of the release that was put out on the MAC website, and I just want listeners to understand what a difficult decision this was, and many of the people out there that may not agree with it is a very difficult decision for everybody. And I think looking at the landscape and making sure the well-being of everyone on campus, and it's not just our student athletes, but the people that work with our student athletes, our professors, our staff, everyone. And while this virus may not hit the younger population as hard, possibly it does have a different impact on different communities and different populations. So with that being in mind, that's kind of why the league decided to do this. And they're well aware of the role that athletics plays on every single campus, from all the way down from Stevenson and Hood in Maryland, all the way up, as north as we get, all the way up to Hoboken, even at Stevens and over here to Wilkes-Barre. And it was not a decision that was taken lightly. Trust me. Having information and hearing stuff like that, how hard it was. So they're going to try to figure out what's best, and they will make that decision, and we'll be on board with it. And don't get it wrong. We said that earlier. We're going to make the experience for our student athletes at Kings as good as possible. And people like Brian Herring, our strength and conditioning coach, will be working hard to get plans for each team and individual to make sure that they're growing both mentally and physically. And then also it's an opportunity for all of our student athletes to really hone down on their progress towards graduation and whatever that ends up being. So lots of safety measures to come in the future, but we're excited about whatever ends up happening. So again, really difficult times, but again, we're excited to still be able to talk to you through this. And one of the persons that we did have a chance to catch up with this week was just a phenomenal young woman, Bailey DeLellis, who's a senior forward on the field hockey program. She also works here in our sports information office. So we again thank her for taking some time. She was during work hours at her internship, and she carved out a little bit of time to talk to us. So thank you so much to Bailey. And I guess right now let's go ahead and send it on over to Bailey DeLellis from the Kings field hockey team. Okay, well, we are here with Bailey DeLellis, a senior forward, three-time D3 Scholar of Distinction. She started all 18 games last year as a junior. She is an Aston, PA native. She scored 3 goals in her career. She's played 50 games. Again, we'd love to welcome to Leo's House Party Podcast, Bailey DeLellis. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jamie.
So obviously, not a great day. The news coming out from the MAC that the fall sports seasons are being postponed, at least for now, and no real kind of answer about where that's going to be. You know, as a fall sports athlete, have you had a chance to talk to any of your teammates so far? Have you had a chance to kind of digest the information and kind of how are you dealing with that?
Yeah, so yesterday, our coach Martha got us all together on a Zoom meeting, kind of told us before the article went out, and so we didn't have to kind of find out through the grapevine. So it was really supportive to hear it that way, and it was nice to like see my teammates' faces. You know, everyone was really disappointed, but we're just gonna keep moving forward. You know.
Yeah, it's really the only thing you kind of can do. I guess as you do try to stay motivated and move forward, I guess the plan still here at Kings is to be back on campus and be around your teammates and other student athletes and the college campus as a community. You know, as the senior leader, how do you keep everyone motivated? Obviously, with at least no fall season, how do you kind of stay motivated? And as a leader, what do you do to get your team together and moving forward?
I think it's really important to kind of look on the bright side of things. You know, this is all for our safety, and hopefully this small sacrifice is going to pay off in the spring when hopefully we have the opportunity to play. And during this time, I think we really could use it to just bond as a team, get to know our new incoming recruits, and you know, prepare as much as we can. And it's just going to make us more hungrier for the spring. So that's kind of what I'm holding on to and what I'm hoping my teammates are as well.
Yeah, you know, I think you bring up a really good point, Billy, is that just as you normally you guys come in and it's just right into preseason, you don't have a ton of time to kind of acclimate your incoming freshmen or first year players. You know, as someone that has been in the program now for going into their 4th year, you know, what's something that you found was helpful for you as a freshman, and then also something that you've seen that your team has done that has really worked well with underclassmen since you've been there?
I think coming in as a freshman, just how supportive everyone was a big deal. You don't realize it, but going from the high school level to the college level is just completely different. And every freshman goes through freshman jitters and trying to get acclimated to being on the team. So something that my team did to support me and we continue to do with our freshmen is just, you know, cheer them on during practice. If they mess up, everyone messes up, you know, so it's okay. So we just want everyone on the team incoming and even existing that it's okay to mess up. We all make mistakes. It's learning from those mistakes.
Yeah, definitely. So Bailey, I want to kind of take a step back to last year. Obviously, the season didn't quite finish how you guys wanted to, missing the playoffs, but there were some good moments, and one of those was that come from behind game against Wilkes when you guys ended up coming back from being down 2. You scored a goal in that game. You know, just as a bigger win for you guys last year, just what do you remember from that game, and what was something that you'll take from that contest?
I just keep going back to how supportive my teammates are, you know, every game, including that game, it's just, you know, we don't play like we're down 2 goals, you know. Something I love about being on the team, and especially that game, was just we never gave up, and we don't ever give up, you know. We came back from being behind Misericordia as well last season, so something that I admire about my teammates is just their strive, and hopefully that's something that we'll just continue to work on and keep growing.
So you found King's College you went to Sun Valley High School, which is in Aston, which is, for people that don't know, is in between Philly and Wilmington. And so, you know, how do you find King's? Like, how did that King's kind of pop up to you as you were on your college search? And what was it about the school that was such a draw for you?
I found King's actually just on the Common application. I was looking at schools in PA that were free to apply to, things like that. And I saw King's College, Wilkes-Barre, and I recognized Wilkes-Barre, and I was like, I feel like I know that, you know? So I looked online, started looking into the field hockey team, and that's when my interest peaked, you know? I went and did an overnight here, and just the community feel, I just knew that this was my place to go. I had overnights set up at other schools, and I called to cancel the next day. I was like, I'm not coming. I found my home.
Well, I mean, that's awesome. You're a finance major, I believe, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And, you know, we've had an opportunity to work together, as you obviously have been helping out in our sports info office. But as a finance major, you know, what is the best part of the business school for you that you've seen, and you know, kind of once you're using that finance degree, what are you trying to do after you get out of here?
So McGowan School of Business is just all around amazing, no matter what major you're in. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in it. You know, we just get such a well-rounded education. And they go like really granular. You know, something I really enjoy about my finance classes is I'm not just learning how to punch numbers into Excel. You know, I'm learning the background and the why, not just the how. So that's what I really enjoy. And right now I have an internship with WSFS Bank. So I'm hoping to stick with them. I think my interest lies with commercial banking, commercial lending. So being in risk management, an underwriter, that's kind of what I'm striving for right now. So post Kings, that's what I'm looking towards.
Bailey, you know, you've been here, you're going into your fourth year now. You've obviously had a chance to make a ton of memories, not just on the field, but off of it as well. You know, what's something when you end up leaving Kings, like what's the one or two memories that you're going to just remember the most from being here in Wilkes-Barre?
I'm probably going to remember the most just all the times I've been with my friends, especially the snow days, you know, being up in the mountains. That's just one advantage that we have is some snow days. And it's just so much fun to just be around your friends, kind of relax, things like that. So that's something I'm definitely going to miss.
Well, we appreciate Bailey jumping on with us. This is our first ever Leo's House Party podcast, and you're really our first guest. So, you know, we appreciate it. Still have some time. If you want to, you know, tell us any other stories or any other shout outs, you want to say hi to anybody, it's definitely your time now.
I just want to say shout out to my team, Kings College Field Hockey. We're going to get through this, and shout out to all the other athletes out there that are being affected. You know, it's going to be difficult, but just keep your head up, and let's just hope in the long run that we're going to be able to dominate this spring season.
Well, great words from a great teammate and a leader, Bailey DeLellis from the Kings field hockey team. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. Obviously, I know you're busy with your internship, but thanks so much for hopping on us on this difficult day. But as you said, we'll get through it, and we'll be stronger on the other side once we do. Bailey, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Big thanks to Bailey DeLellis for allowing her to come on and talk to us a little bit about how she's feeling about the cancellation of the fall sports and how she's dealing with that, and also just a little bit about her and what she's been doing with her finance major and what she's been doing. So big thanks to Bailey DeLellis for joining us, and we really appreciate her, and hopefully we can't wait to see her and the rest of her teammates back here soon. So, you know, campus right now is obviously pretty quiet. There's no one back, and a lot of the offices are closed right now as things are still ready to ramp up here in about a week or so. I think August 3rd is when most people will kind of start trickling back into campus. But I think one of the big things is, you know, go to GoMaxSports.com. There's tons of answers there. There's a frequently asked questions document that's really going to be important, I think, as we kind of navigate through this. And, you know, as Bailey was saying, you know, there's no decisions that have been made yet. I think a lot of speculation is that sports will end up going to the spring, but that's really hasn't been decided yet. And I think a lot of it has to do with what ends up happening with the NCAA if their championships get moved, because if championships get moved, then there's obviously a lot of incentive for teams and athletes to want to play in the spring. And, you know, there's lots of decisions that need to be made still, but thinking about it from the perspective of, you know, the spring sports trying to share space and time a lot of other resources with our fall teams, we'll make it work. That's something that we'll have to look in how we'll schedule everything. But, as teams come together on the field, I think, all of us here at Kings will come together to make it a great experience for whoever ends up playing and whatever ends up happening, if it's, in 2021 in the spring or in the fall or whenever. So stay positive out there, Monarch Nation. I know it's tough right now. Again, we are out there on social media all the time. We'd love to interact with all of you out there, alums, coaches, fans, families, anyone that's interested in Kings College and Monarch Nation. We want to hear from you. So, as we do takeovers or contests or, Media Mondays, stuff like that, you see yourself on a picture or interact with us. We'd love to hear from you. We got lots of things going on right now. We'd love to hear from alums and have you do a series. We were trying to start, kind of letters to future Monarchs. So if you're interested in something like that, please just shoot me an email, Jamie Chagnon, it's JamieChagnon @kings.edu, and we'll get you set for that. But, we're really excited about our next interview. It's a guy that I've loved having conversations with since I've been here. He's been here now. He's going into his junior year. I'm going into my third year. So we kind of got here at the same time. But just a really interesting guy, a part of a backfield that's been super important for the Kings football team over the last couple of years, and a guy that you've probably seen on game days on our Instagram stories. A running back you should be really looking out for this year. I think he's going to have a breakout season, a guy that's going to be really dependent on the carry the football when that ends up being the case for our team. So without further ado, let's go ahead and send it on over to junior running back Quincy Clark. Well, we are super excited to have someone that is going to be you're going to be really hearing about here in the upcoming months. Hopefully, soon in the spring or whenever it ends up being. Obviously, with today's news, but we're joined by a junior running back out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He's played in 19 of 20 games at Kings in his 2 seasons. He's the 3-sport star at Lancaster Catholic, and he's rushed for almost 200 yards at Kings. He's got 1 touchdown, and he's vying for that RB1 position as a junior coming up this year. And we are super thrilled to have junior Quincy Clark joining us here on the Leo's House Party podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So obviously the recent bad news that came out about the fall sports being delayed or suspended, we've been through this now 4 months into this quarantine, and now you've kind of got to wait a little bit longer. How have you been staying ready with all these unknowns?
I mean, you just got to prepare like it was a regular season, like you're guaranteed a season. You got to stay in the weight room if you have access to it. You have to stay in your playbook, you know what I mean? So the preparation was really no different than before. But got to make the best. Simple as that. Make the best of the situation you're put in.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have been really working hard when everyone was kind of sent home from school there in the spring semester. As you heard about this, I'm sure that you had communication with Coach Nar and with the rest of the team. Have you been talking to your teammates just about what they've been doing and how they're staying, ready to go with all with all this news?
Yeah, we're all pretty much in the same boat. We all have to look at this from the perspective where we're not thinking negatively about it. We have to see that with this season being canceled, we have an extra year of eligibility. So our season it was taken away from us, but we also have the opportunity to make up for it. So we have, instead of just a few months to get ready, we have an entire year to prepare our bodies and our minds for the next season that we will play in.
Q, I think you bring up a really good point there, is that, when you were a first-year player at one point, and how does something like this actually help some of the incoming, newcomers, the first-year players that have the opportunity now to really mold their bodies and get acclimated to the team setting, and how do you think that can be actually an advantage for them?
Well, a lot of as far as freshmen go, A lot of them usually have that question on whether or not their bodies are where they need to be. So with this extra year in the weight room, with Coach B's plan, they should have no issue having their bodies where they should be. We're also going to have meetings and things like that so that their mental is where it should be as well. So they're not just thrown in with older players, 22, whatever they might be, and just them not having any type of idea of what's going on. So.
Yeah, that's a good. It's a good point. And you also mentioned somebody in there, Coach B, Brian Herring, our strength and conditioning coach. How big of an asset has Brian been, and also before him, Coach Kersetter. How important has that role been for the development of not only you but you and your teammates?
Oh, it's been absolutely amazing. I wasn't here when we did not have a strength and conditioning coach, but the fact that we do puts us at such an advantage compared to other schools, because not every school has a full-time strength and conditioning coach. So our weights are going up, our body weights along with our lifts are going up. We're healthier, we're stronger, we're faster. I mean, we're definitely headed in the right direction.
So you're kind of in an interesting perspective here, because you have kind of you get to see it from both sides, because your father, Ralph, is the head coach at a school in the same conference as Kings at Alvernia. And, has it been an asset, because you kind of get to see it from like the coaching perspective, too, when you're home. Has he given you some advice on, as, maybe as a father or more so as a coach, or do you kind of get it from both sides?
Honestly, he has not given me much of anything. We're very competitive people. So we're opponents. We don't really discuss much that goes on. We don't really try to help, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So he hasn't said much, but I know what he would say, and that would be just to keep your foot on the gas. You know what I mean? You can't think of this as a time where you just get to go on vacation and, chill out, do whatever you want. You can't get lazy. You have to treat this like it was a normal season, a normal off season, you know what I mean? So got to stay prepared.
So, I mean, Quincy, you've been able to, over the last 2 years, really, transform your body, but as well as you've been able to watch and learn from somebody, Jordan Downs, who is, one of the better running backs in the conference. What did you learn from Jordan, and what is something that you'll really take into your next 2 years at Kings?
Jordan was awesome. Sitting back and watching him these last 2 years, he's taught me things on and off the field. As far as preparation goes, how to take care of your body, how to study, when to study, things like that. And then off the field, just how to carry yourself around campus and present yourself to people who are outside of the football team or even outside of the school. You know what I mean? Just helping me grow as a man.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have some big news about Jordan. We'll actually end up releasing in the next probably next week at some point. But we're really excited for him. But yeah, obviously a great guy and a great leader for you guys. So when kind of back 2-3 years when you were looking to make your decision on where you're going to be going after your great career at Lancaster Catholic, how did you kind of matriculate and find your way to Kings?
Truthfully, it was just the brotherhood. Just the first moment you step on campus with, as a senior in high school, being recruited, you've got players just coming up to you, introducing themselves, really welcoming you with open arms. And I mean, that felt amazing. Whereas most other schools they felt like divided, you know what I mean? It didn't matter if you were a defensive player, offensive player, upperclassman or lowerclassman. At Kings, we're all one. We're one family, and I really got that sense on my overnight. So it was great. At that moment, I knew I was coming to Kings.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the nice thing, we've both been here the same amount of time, Q. I mean, this is finishing up my second year. You're going in your third year, the same as me, and I can definitely agree with you there. So, kind of on a personal note, we've had some more downtime, I guess you'd say, when you're not working out. Like, what do you like to do? What's something that you really enjoy doing when you're not, in the gym or getting better? Are you a big music guy? Do you play video games? What's your thing?
I actually do not play video games, which comes as a surprise to many. But I do. I'm very into my music. I love music, staying up to date with what drops each week. I've watched a lot of Netflix, a lot of Netflix the last few months. I've gone through probably like 4 different series of TV shows. So yeah, that's really it. Music, TV, that's about it.
Well, you gotta let us know what you've been watching. What's your top go-to right now, music wise, and what are a couple shows that people should check out on Netflix?
My favorite all right, Pop Smoke, Ross Swish, J. Cole. J. Cole's the GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
As far as TV shows, Ozark was probably my favorite. Ozark was up there. I also watched Outer Banks.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently, thanks to Izu, got into anime. So My Hero Academia, just started watching that. So it's nice.
Always take the suggestions from Easy. That guy is always on top of things. So, well, we won't take too much of your any more of your time. We got a couple more minutes, but so if there's any other shout outs or any other memories you want to, say before we get going, anybody you want to say hello to, now's your time.
Hello to the King's College family. Any sport, you know what I mean? Just hope everyone's doing well.
Well, again, Q, we really appreciate you taking some time into your day today to catch out with us, and stay strong out there and keep doing your thing. And we look forward to seeing you back on the field here soon.
All right, thank you for having me.
A big thanks to Quincy Clark for joining us today on the Leo's House Party podcast. And as we finish up here for this first episode, as you guys are listening, hope you're still with us. If you're interested in being a guest on our show and just talking about what you've been doing as a King's student athlete, or if you're an alum or a coach, you want to get on here and talk and tell us what you've been doing, please just let us know. Interact with us on social media. But the good thing is, while unfortunately we won't have any fall sports here at Kings in the MAC and who knows at the Division III level, we do have the luxury of having some professional sports starting, which is nice. So with baseball starting in the last week, and ice hockey is coming back soon, and then the NBA and the bubble, at least we'll have some professional sports to kind of watch. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll talk a little bit more professional sports, and kind of as things come out in the conference, we will make sure to keep you guys up to date on what's going on with that as more details come out, kind of down from the NCAA and then to the MAC and in this regional level, as things progress with COVID, and hopefully as people continue to wear their masks and socially distance and wash their hands, this will start to slowly go away, and we'll get back to whatever new normal we're going to have as our student athletes and all of our students come back to Kings here in Wilkes-Barre. So for those out there, thanks so much for tuning in to the first ever episode of Leo's House Party podcast. I hope your teams do well in the restart, whether it's baseball, hockey, or basketball. Personally, I'll be rooting for the Capitals right up here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But until then, we'll see you next week with some more guests. We're excited to drop those. And hope you have a great rest of your week. And keep grinding out there, Monarch Nation. And we will see you next week. Have a great weekend. So long, guys. The views and opinions by the host and guests of the Leo House Party podcast do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of King's College. The Leo House Party podcast is produced and presented by the King's College Sports Information Office, and any redistribution or reproduction of content in any form is strictly prohibited without express written consent of King's Athletics. Follow King's Athletics on social media at King's Monarchs on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and also visit the online home of Monarch Athletics at kingscollegeathletics.com.